السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه إلى يوم الدين. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم ويسر لنا طريق العلم وحسن أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا من واسع حكمتك وعلمنا ما لا نعلم فإنك تعلم ولا نعلم وإنك أنت علام الغيوب يا رب العالمين. Welcome to the last lecture of النبر and straightness of Quranic performance. Please note that the lecture is a translation of the Arabic version given by Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب, حفظه الله. If you would like to watch the Arabic version, please click on the link below. After we have finished and completed with the 4 rules of Al-Meezan Al-Nabry, and after we have studied the exceptions, and we have mastered to a very large extent the rules of Al-Meezan Al-Nabry, we have the last lecture left in the chapter on the connected and separated, and its relationship to An-Nabr. This lecture is entitled Chapter of the Connected and Separated, and its relationship to the calligraphy of the Qur'an. This section has a strong and direct relationship with An-Nabr. بفضل الله تعالى, the previous rules that we have studied appoints us from what will be said today, especially the second rule in its 2 formulas. It is the rule that Professor Dr. وليد called the magical rule, because in this chapter it governs many words. As we have mentioned before, it has a solution for every problem in chapter of connected and separated. In this lecture, we will talk about calligraphy consent forms, the relationship between An-Nabr and connected and separated, and about a guideline for straight performance. Before we start talking about the chapter of connected and separated, we will talk about the oldest text we have reached that warns of 2 things through the correct and incorrect stress. The first warning, separation and connection, because sometimes we must separate and sometimes we must connect with the word that touched or dealt with it. The second warning, the impact of the incorrect stress that leads to corruption in the meaning. This text belongs to the author Abdurrahman bin Zayd Aslam al-Adawi, passed away 182 Hijriya. This text is Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب's version of the Tafsir Ibn Abi Hatim, passed away 327 Hijriya. This word is not in the books of calligraphic scholars, and this indicates that the topic is not specific to the words that were mentioned in the chapter of connected and separated. Each word must have the rank it deserves. Each word must have its own independence. Ibn Zayd compared between وَسَأَلَهُمْ and وَسَأَلَهُمْ, وَسَاءَ and لَهُمْ is 2 words. It is a verb that benefits slander, لَهُمْ, and lam is a preposition, and hum is a pronoun. As for وَسَأَلَهُمْ is 1 word. From accountability, and lam became part of the word. He said, وَسَأَلَهُمْ. It is not connected. It should be separated, because if he connected the 2 words, you wouldn't understand. Therefore, he looked at the meaning, and it is not for us to say that the recipient will understand the meaning of the word. And after that, he says, rather it is وَسَأَلَهُمْ. It is separated, وَسَاءَ and لَهُمْ. And he separated like this, as it is in front of us now. This text is not only evidence of the chapter of the connected and separated, but rather it is an evidence of everything we studied in An-Nabr from the first lecture until now. as we have accustomed to relying on the meaning, and syntax is a branch of meaning, so that is what governs the language. Let's begin with calligraphy consent forms. These figures are all found in the Book of Revelation of the 10 authentic qira'at. Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب arranged and organized it. جزاه الله عنا خير الجزاء. Al-Imam Ibn al-Jazari Rahimahullah, it is who mentioned these forms in terms of stopping and starting, al-waqf wal-ibtida', and did not address it in terms of performance. But بفضل الله تعالى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed our honorable Sheikh, Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب, with this knowledge, and he set these rules in scientific manner. And, as he said, the meaning is what governs the words of the chapter of the connected and separated. Al-Imam Ibn al-Jazari talked about it until we came out with information. Can we find the word connected and read it separated? Can we find the word separated and read it connected? These figures answer these questions. There are 5 forms of calligraphy approval. The first form is what agreed to calligraphy in all the Qur'an, which means all Qur'ans agree to calligraphy. These words or these verses or this passage like this, there is no disagreement between the Qur'ans. For example, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. It is calligraphy in all the Qur'ans like this, so there is no disagreement. We have the Ottoman Qur'an, a Madani Qur'an found in Mecca and Medina, a Kufi Qur'an for the people of Basra and Sham, a Shami Qur'an, and so on, as well as a Qur'an with such of Arabic calligraphy. This is a second form of calligraphy approval, but was constant in some of the Qur'an and not in others. As we know, Al-Masahif that Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu sent to the Islamic Ansar. These al-Masahif differed among themselves in some aspects of the Quranic readings. For examples here, قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا. في المصحف الشامي, it is read without al-waw. In Shami Qur'an, it is actually the Ibn Amir's reading. In the position of Surah Al-Baqarah, without the waw. And all readers read it with a waw. وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا. And Ibn Amir recites it without a waw. Therefore, what was constant in some of Qur'an and not in others is a calligraphy consent. The important thing here is that only Shami Qur'an and Ibn Amir's reading is the one that omitted al-waw. So is it agreed to calligraphy or not? Yes, there is a calligraphy consent and approval on authentic sanad. There are words that are proven in some of the Qur'ans and not in others, based on one of the readings. What is the meaning of calligraphy approval and disapproval? It means when we read the Qur'an, we must adhere to Qur'an's calligraphy. Is the commitment in one way, or is there more than one way? Calligraphy consent forms according to the 10 authentic qira'at of the Imam Ibn al-Jazari. Which scriptures are we talking about? We are talking about the masahifs that Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu anhu sent to the supporters of Islam, the Islam Ansar, after he collected the Qur'an in 5 masahifs and distributed them to the Ansar. We are talking about these masahifs. The third form. It was also mentioned by Al-Imam Ibn al-Jazari, rahimahullah, the so-called probable or discretionary approval of calligraphy. The explicit calligraphy was authorized in positions by consensus, meaning in all the Qur'ans, it is written different from reading and performing. For example, as-salata, az-zakata. We do not pronounce well, and yet it is written like this in all the Qur'ans. These words of performance are contrary to calligraphy in other Qur'ans, but it is agreed that they are consent with the calligraphy. It is not a violation, it is probable or discretionary approval of calligraphy. Also, violating the explicit calligraphy and appreciating it with a famous reading is not considered a violation. It means we have it in the Uthmani Qur'ans, and we have a word, بِضَانِينَ, that was written in all the Qur'ans with ضاد, but it was read with ضاء. So, it is calligraphy with ضاد, but it is read with ضاء. Is it in one of the Qur'ans ضاء? No, in all the Qur'ans it is ضاد. But this recitation is a well-known recitation. So, is it considered to be an agreement with calligraphy or not? Based on the words of Al-Imam Ibn al-Jazari said, it is the reading of Ibn Kathir, Abi Amr, Al-Kisa'i, and Ruwais an Yaqub. They read بِضَانِينَ with ضاء, and the rest read it with ضاد, بِضَانِينَ. So, are we the ones who governs that? No. Ibn al-Jazari is the one who mentioned it. It is also called investigative and discretionary approval. How investigative and how discretionary at the same time? It means if the word was calligraphy in a certain way and it was carried by another performance. For example, مالك يوم الدين. It was calligraphy in all the Qur'ans like this, as it is in front of us without alif, and yet a reading alif, it sustains it. مالك يوم الدين. رواية ناصر. Nasir's narration. Al-Kasa'i, Asim, read it with alif, and the rest of the readers read it without alif, and it was in the Qur'an without alif. So reading alif also bears it. So it is a correct and frequent reading. So these are 5 forms that Imam Ibn al-Jazari warned about. We get out of this talk for possibilities, forms of graphic approval, the agreement between calligraphy and performance. So, it is a correct and frequent reading of the authentic sanad. Probability forms of consent between calligraphy and performance. This means approval may be investigative or discretionary. It means the performance agrees with calligraphy. Then, it is an investigative agreement, which means we find it connected either calligraphically and performance, or we find it separated either calligraphically and performance. And if the performance does not agree with calligraphy, then it is discretionary, which means we find it connected calligraphically and separated in performance, or we find it separated calligraphically and connected in performance. We must understand a point, investigative and discretionary. We are talking about calligraphy, meaning it is related to passing, and passing is a branch of meaning. We should focus very much here. Okay, what is the point that Professor Dr. وليد Al-Deeb pointed out? For example, if you misplace a nabr and pronounce the incorrect, and you say فقست instead of فقست, or فسق instead of فسق, or ألف instead of ألف, or أحد instead of أحد. So, it is to make approval discretionary, and this performance is contrary to the meaning and syntax. So there is a difference between this and that. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Al-Imam Ibn al-Jazari summarized for us these opinions of reading scholars in the correct reading standards in his verses. One word alerted him to a great matter when he said, فَكُلُّ مَا وَافَقَ وَجْهَ نَحْوِي وَكَانَ لِلرَّسْمِ احْتِمَالًا يَحْوِي. The word احتمالا means probability. The word probability means that calligraphy is probable. Calligraphy sustains this performance and sustains that performance. If we did not say that they would not accuse the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, of making a mistake in writing the Qur'an, and this is what Ibn Khaldun said in his introduction. He said the companions made a mistake, and Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب responded to it in research entitled Connected and Separated Between Qur'an Calligraphy and Linguistic Performance, and he participated with it in a conference at the King Fahd complex in Al-Madinah in 2015. And in this conference, he presented the colored Qur'an in the colors of Al-Meezan Al-Nabry. We respect that the companions did. May Allah be pleased with them. This calligraphy is in accordance with the performance, but this approval is either investigative or discretionary, meaning the calligraphy is the performance itself. Discretionary means the calligraphy bears this performance. Let's start with some examples. A word, inna, with relative pronoun, ma, ism mawsul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إنما عند الله هو خير لكم. A word ma, there is a range of opinions on ma. Relative pronoun. It means an independent noun, which is not associated with another word and merged with it, and it has a position in this syntax. For example, إنما عند الله هو خير لكم. How do I know ma is a relative pronoun? We place ma with الذي. If the meaning is correct, then ma is a relative pronoun. Okay, calligraphically connected as agreed, but it needs to be separated in performance. The straight performance is a dialect of the Arabic language. So, is the approval discretionary? Because the performance violated calligraphy. The second verse, إِنَّمَا تُوعَدُونَ لَآتٍ. Here, calligraphically separated in all the Qur'ans, and needs to be separated in performance. Also, ma is a relative pronoun. So, the approval is investigative. Why? Because the performance agreed with the Quranic calligraphy, because the decree is exactly like the operative. We repeat again. إِنَّمَا تُوعَدُونَ لَآتٍ. It is probable that we say إِنَّمَا because this is the correct meaning, the correct syntax, and the straight performance that leads to the intended meaning of the verse, the meaning intended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, in the first verse, discretionary approval. In the second verse, investigative approval. Subhanallah ta'ala. We will find the same words that may be written connected in one position and separated in another. So this allows us to choose, of course. We choose based on the straight performance which corresponds to the meaning and correct syntax, which is the branch of meaning. We say إِنَّمَا and not إِنَّمَا. A word with interrogative man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ آنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ. Man is calligraphically connected, but it needs to be separated in performance. So, the approval is discretionary because the performance violated calligraphy. The second verse, أَمَّنْ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَكِيلًا. Man, plus man. Here, the same word is calligraphically separated as agreed in other positions, and need to be separated in performance. So the approval is investigative. Rather, You will find the same word in the same verse in the same position, calligraphically separated in the Qur'an and calligraphically connected in another Qur'an. So here we are allowed to choose, but the correct performance is 1. So it is performed as separated, even if it was calligraphically connected or separated. We say man and not man. If we say man, it becomes one word, and the meme has shadda. The correct performance man in tajweed rules إدغام مثلين صغير. What went wrong? The meaning changed, and the tajweed rule is different. After it was 2 words became 1 word. The second error. We have mentioned the performative pitfalls that lead to misplacing a nabr, leads to corruption in meaning and the violation of eloquence of performance. The formation may be correct and the rules of tajweed are often correct, but misplacing the nabr leads to the error in the meaning as well as tajweed. It is calligraphically connected, but it needs to be separated in performance. We repeat again, man and not man. A word, حيث, with ما. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَحَيْثُ مَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَهُ. It occurred in the Qur'an al-Karim in 2 positions in Surah Al-Baqarah, and in both the positions it is a single noun. The word حيث, it's combined with ما, so it became a definitive condition. حيث, the word is independent and comes alone. ما also is an independent word and came alone. However, it came in this position and they were combined, so it becomes 1 word. It becomes a compound noun. We say وَحَيْثُ مَا and not وَحَيْثُ مَا. The conditional in with negative la. In all of these examples, we want to say what performance requires the calligraphy supports. The approval may be investigative if the performance is in accordance with calligraphy, and the approval may be discretionary of the performance if the performance does not agree with calligraphy. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ. It is calligraphically connected, as if it were 1 word, but it needs to be separated in performance. Why? Because in is a word, and la is a word. This is according to the calligraphy books, language books, and grammar scholars. They said that illa is 2 words, so it is illa and not illa. In tajweed rules, إدغام كامل بغير غنة. النون ساكنة merged into lam, and lam becomes مشددة. If we say إلا, violate the tajweed rule, and the 2 words become 1 word, and the incorrect performance leads to the corruption in meaning. Yes, it is calligraphically connected, but it needs to be separated in performance. إلا is an acceptive particle, but إلا is a conditional in with a negative la, 2 words. La, it belongs to a group of particles which are negative particles. We say إلا and not إلا. Do we violate the calligraphy? No. We approve calligraphy, and the approval is discretionary. A word, يوم, with whom. This is an explicit and clear witness to the role of grammar in guiding a straight performance. We have 3 positions in the Qur'an al-Karim, calligraphically connected in 2 positions with kasra and al-mim. يومهم in Surah Al-A'raf and Surah Al-Dhariyat, and in 1 position with fatha on the mim. يومهم in Surah Al-Zukhruf. These words are calligraphically connected in all the Qur'ans. يومهم and يومهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, حتى يلاقوا يومهم الذي يوعدون فاليوم ننساهم كما نسوا لقاء يومهم هذا. Connected in performance and calligraphy and investigative approval. If a pronoun whom is connected to the word, it becomes part of the word. It is genitive, because the pronoun is attached to the word and becomes part of it, because it is genitive. As for the incorrect performance, we say يومهم. We separate the pronoun from the word, and this does not agree with the Qur'an calligraphy, because the pronoun is connected to the word. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يومهم بارزون. يومهم, two positions in the Qur'an al-Kareem, in Surah Ghafir and Surah Al-Dhariyat. It is separated in performance and calligraphy. Why? Here, hum barizun, the whole sentence is genitive. The meaning and syntax leads to its separation, and approval is investigative. We say يومهم and not يومهم. The first verse, we say يومهم and not يومهم and not يومهم. The second verse, we say يومهم and not يومهم. In the third verse, we say يومهم and not يومهم. Connected words in performance. There are a group of words that represent both the attitude of calligraphy and performance. There are words connected in performance and calligraphically that may be in some positions are separated and in some positions are connected permanently. We start with the words calligraphically separated, but it needs to be connected and approval is discretionary. حيثما and not حيثما. Also the word إلياسين is a single word based on the grammarians and the hadith of al-Mufassirin. Calligraphically separated, but needs to be connected in performance. We say إلياسين and not إلياسين. إلياسين. The stress is on حركتي اللام and السين. If we say إلياسين, the stress is on حركتي الهمزة and السين. What is the difference? The incorrect performance. The term المفصل, joint, will intervene to differentiate between the two performances, because the two performances are close. We say إلياسين and not إلياسين. We have words that were calligraphically in some positions separated, and in other positions are connected, and it needs to be connected in performance. So, when we find it categorical, the approval is discretionary, because it needs to be connected in performance. And when we find it connected, the approval is investigative. A word, كلما. We find a lam has fatha with a shadda. If it is calligraphically separated, we will say the approval is discretionary. And if it is calligraphically connected, we will say that the approval is investigative. We say كلما and not كلما. It is a noun that has its own independence. Also, the conditional in with supplemental ma. We do not say a supplemental particle in the Qur'an, but the increase intended by the grammarians is an increase in the syntax, meaning that if we delete this letter or this word, the meaning is straightened and the syntax is facilitated. We say imma and not imma. Why do we perform it connected? Because it was compounded in with ma. And it was calligraphy in one position in the Qur'an al-Kareem, in Surah Al-Ra'd, separated. In this case, we say the approval is discretionary, and the rest of the positions is calligraphically connected. And we say the approval is investigative. We say imma and not imma. Likewise, there are words calligraphically connected, but it needs to be connected in performance as well as investigative approval. For example, يومهم and not يومهم, يومهم and not يومهم. We have already explained this a little while ago. Also, preposition fi with interrogative ma. In the Arabic language, there is an inflectional rule. If a preposition connected to the interrogative ma, its alif is omitted. It is calligraphically connected in all its positions, so the approval is investigative. فيما and not فيما. The performance agreed with Qur'an's calligraphy. Also, the preposition an with interrogative ma. We say عَمَّ and not عَمَّ. Also, the preposition min with the interrogative ma. We say مِمَّ and not مِمَّ. Also, قالوهم and not قالوهم. And وزنوهم and not وزنوهم. Among the beautiful things that the calligraphy scholars mentioned, these words كالوهم and وزنوهم is an analogy that we can put any pronoun connected to the word. Scholars say قالوهم is connected and not كالوهم, وزنوهم and not وزنوهم, which means we can put any word like these words. And we say that the pronoun, if it is connected to the word, it becomes part of the word. We say قالوهم and not قالوهم, وزنوهم and not وزنوهم. Also a word, مهما, a single word. Linguists say that it consists of two compound words. This was before the Arabs used it, but it was expressed as one word, and this is how it is heard from the Arabs. مهما, an assertive conditional noun. Calligraphically, it is one word. The scholars have mentioned it. When the scholars mention these words, they refer to how they are performed. We say مهما and not مهما. We repeat again, حيثما and not حيثما. الياسين and not الياسين. كلما and not كلما. إما and not إما. يومهم and not يومهم. يومهم and not يومهم. فيما and not فيما. عما and not عما. مما and not مما. كالوهم and not كالوهم. وزنوهم and not وزنوهم. مهما and not مهما. The summary of the slide. Words calligraphically separated and need to be connected in performance and discretionary approval. Words calligraphically in some positions separated and in some positions are connected and needs to be connected. Words calligraphically connected also connected in performance and investigative approval. This is according to the meaning, and parsing is a branch of meaning. This slide contains separated words in performance, whether it is calligraphically connected or separated, or calligraphically connected in some positions and in some positions separated. It needs to be separated in performance. If it is connected, approval is discretionary, and if it is separated, approval is investigative. The first column, calligraphically connected. For example, يَبْنَ أُمَّ is three words, ya and ibna and calligraphically connected as one word. Does this mean that we pronounce it as one word? No, it is 3 words, and we say yabna Also a word, ni'ma, ni'im and ma. Ni'im, its origin, is a past tense verb that benefits praise. Ma, independent word, the most likely opinion is subject of a verb, because there is a range of opinions on ma. We say ni'ma and not ni'imma. Also a word, yawma, with id. Always calligraphically connected as one word. يومئذ. If, in all syntax books, it is a possessive construction, which means an independent word. So, if, it is not a pronoun. A pronoun, if connected to the word, we treat it as part of the word. But any other word that connected to the word, it is treated as a word that has its own independence. We say يومئذ and not يومئذ. Also a word, حينئذ and not حينئذ. Also, preposition min, if connected to relative men. Min plus men. We say min men is 2 words and not min men. If we say min men, it becomes 1 word. And ميم becomes مشددة with غنة أكمل ما تكون. But it is 2 words, min plus men. إدغام كامل بغنة أكمل ما تكون. And the correct performance preserved tajweed rules. Also, with ma, noun. Ma and not ma. Plus ma. Ma is 2 words. إدغام كامل بغنة أكمل ما تكون in tajweed rules. If we say أما, it becomes 1 word. And ميم مشددة with غنة. In the language, it is a conditional noun. It has 2 positions in the Qur'an al-Karim. We say أما and not أما. Also, with ماذا. Joined ماذا. الميم ساكنة merged into ميم with فتحة. It becomes ميم مشددة in tajweed rules. إدغام كامل بغنة أكمل ما تكون. We say ماذا and not ماذا. As we have mentioned at the beginning of the lecture, the danger of negative effect of misplacing a nabr. Although a tashkil is correct and a tajweed most of the time is correct, but misplacing a nabr leads to violation of the eloquence of performance and corruption in meaning. Sometimes such words may be affected, so the second rule, فعل, intervenes strongly here to solve the problem. We say ماذا and not ماذا. Also, the conditional in with the negative la. As we have explained a while ago, we say إلا is 2 words and not إلا. It becomes 1 word. Also, way with كأن. There is an opinion of linguists that way is a word and كأن is a word. And there are those who say ويك a word and أن a word. They pronounce it in 2 ways, and both ways are correct. The stress will be on حركة الواو and حركة الهمزة. Also, if the pronoun connected to the word, these 2 words are thus mentioned in the Qur'an al-Karim. We say وَيْكَأَنَّ and not وَيْكَأَنَّ. وَيْكَأَنَّهُ and not وَيْكَأَنَّهُ. Also, the interjection ya with Musa or قومي. Ya Musa, Ya قومي is 2 words is separated in performance, even if it is calligraphically connected. All the words that are connected to the interjection ya are from the chapter of connected and separated. It is separated in performance. We say Ya Musa and not Ya Musa, Ya Qawmi and not Ya Qawmi. The warning ha with the word أولئك أنتم. These words calligraphically connected needs to be separated in performance and discretionary approval. We say هؤلاء and not هؤلاء. ها أنتم and not ها أنتم. The second column, words calligraphically connected and separated. These words calligraphically connected and sometimes separated, but always separated in performance. For example, with the interrogative men. We say men and not men. Also, preposition fi with relative ma. We say فيما and not فيما. K with la. We say كي لا and not كي لا. N المخففة with لن. Whether calligraphically separated or connected, it is separated in performance. Rather, it is connected in the same verse in one mushaf, and it is separated in another mushaf. And this is an evidence that we separated in performance. We say اللن and not اللن. We have a preposition عن with a relative ما. We say عما and not عما. It may come in a Quranic calligraphy separated or connected, but it needs to be separated in performance. If the performance is in violation of calligraphy, and investigative approval if the performance is in accordance with calligraphy. We repeat again, عما and not عما. A preposition min with a relative ma. We say mimma and not mimma. The conditional in with assertive lam. We say illam and not illam. Also, an with la. We say Allah and not Allah. Bitsa with the relative ma is two words. Bitsa is a word and ma is a word. We say bitsama and not bitsama. Whether calligraphically connected or separated, it needs to be separated in performance. Also, an al-mukhaffafah with law. We say al-law and not al-law. In tajweed rules, it is idgham kamil بغير غنة. If we say al-law, it becomes one word. Al-law and not al-law. The third column, calligraphically separated. There are words calligraphically separated, and it is performed separated, and approval is investigative. For example, preposition عن with the relative من. We say عمن and not عمن. If we say عمن, it becomes one word and الميم is مشددة with غنة. The correct performance عمن, it is clarified as two words, as well as in tajweed rules, is إدغام كامل بغنة أكمل ما تكون. We say عمن and not عمن. Also, أن المخففة with assertive lam. In tajweed rules, it is إدغام كامل بغير غنة. We say اللام and not اللام. كلي, lam has kasra with ma. It only exists in one position in the Qur'an al-Kareem. In Surah Ibrahim, we say كل ما and not كل ما. Also, يومهم in two positions in the Qur'an al-Kareem. In Surah Ghafir and Surah Al-Dhariyat, we say يومهم and not يومهم. ولا تحين. Walata is a word and حين is a word. We say ولا تحين and not ولا تحين. The stress is on حركتي اللام and الحاء in both performances, the correct and incorrect performances. But what differentiates here between the words is the joint. المفصل. المفصل is a term similar to stress. It takes the place of stress, but between the words, so it is ولا تحين and not ولا تحين. The difference is subtle. A word ابن أم and not ابن أم. أيما and not أيما. Repeat again. يا ابن أم and not يا ابن أم. نعما and not نعما. يومئذ and not يومئذ. حينئذ and not حينئذ. ممن and not ممن. أما and not أما. ماذا and not ماذا. إلا and not إلا. ويكأن and not ويكأن. ويكأنه and not ويكأنه. يا موسى and not يا موسى. يا قوم and not يا قوم. هؤلاء and not هؤلاء. ها أنتم and not ها أنتم. أمن and not أمن. فيما and not فيما. كيلا and not كيلا. ألن and not ألن. عما and not عما. مما and not مما. إلم and not إلم. ألا and not ألا. بئس ما and not بئس ما. اللو and not اللو. عمن and not عمن. اللم and not اللم. كل ما and not كل ما. يومهم and not يومهم. ولا تحين and not ولا تحين. ابن أم and not ابن أم. أيما and not أيما. Words that are sometimes performed separated and sometimes performed connected depending on the type of ma. Based on the language and syntax, which means based on the meaning, which is أين الاستفهامية with ما الموصولة. أن with ما الموصولة. إن with ما الموصولة. In some positions we may pronounce it as one word, and in some positions we may pronounce it as two words. Sometimes they are in one mushaf separated and in another mushaf are connected, but in one position separated and another position or connected, and it is separated in a verse, and in the same verse is another mushaf connected. So, approval may be investigative or discretionary. It is investigative when it is calligraphically connected and to be performed in performance, and vice versa. It is discretionary when it is calligraphically connected and needs to be performed in performance, and vice versa. Let's take some examples. The interrogative أين with the relative ما is two words. أين plus ما. We say أينما and not أينما. The correct stress leads to the correct meaning. Also, أنما and not أنما. The meaning requires separated in performance. إنما and not إنما. It is a type of ma that determines if it is separated or connected. Likewise, we delete ma and place it with الذي. If the meaning is correct, then it is a relative ma. It is separated in performance. If the meaning is not correct, it is performed connected. Therefore, Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah said, وَكَانَ لِلرَّسْمِ احْتِمَالًا يَحْوِي, to conclude calligraphic potentially more performance. Connected in performance, and vice versa. Sometimes أين, when it is connected with a conditional noun, we say أينما and not أينما. Also, أن, when it is connected with ما الكافة, it is connected in performance. أنما and not أنما. Also, إن with ما الكافة, إنما and not إنما. It is connected in performance, whether it is calligraphically separated or connected. Once again, if it is a relative pronoun, then in this case it is separated from the previous word, whether it is أينما or أنما or إنما. If it is ما الكافة, in this case it is performed connected. How do I know the types of ma? We delete ma and place it with الذي if the meaning is correct. Then it is separated. If the meaning is not correct, then it is connected. ما الكافة. We delete ma if the meaning is straight. It is connected. But if the meaning is not straight, it is separated in performance. Calligraphically connected and separated. Separated in performance. Calligraphically connected and separated. أينما and not أينما. أنما and not أنما. إنما and not إنما. Connected in performance. Calligraphically connected and separated. أينما and not أينما. أنما and not أنما. إنما and not إنما. The preposition lam separated from the word ma in performance. Professor Dr. وليد الديب حفظه came up with these words because they are found in calligraphy books and also because they are problematic. The preposition joined the following word, but in this position it is connected to the previous word, the word ma. We look at the stress to know that it does not solve the problem, and yet we say that al-mifsal is a stress. Al-mifsal and the stress are two sides of the same thing. Therefore, al-mifsal is between the words as the stress within the word. Also, after we mastered the course of النبر, the ear became highly sensitive to what you hear. We now distinguish between the correct and incorrect in the word. Calligraphically, preposition lam is connected to what's preceded. Does this mean that we pronounce it? Mali means money. No, lam it is performed connected to the following word, ma plus لهذا. All linguists and all grammarians are unanimous that preposition lam, it is not part of the word ma. Lam preposition relates to what follows it, not what precedes it. How to differentiate? We consider ma alone and لهذا alone until we came up with the straight performance. ما, half of the formula فعل and حركة الميم endure the stress. لهذا, we have the first sequence of the word and last sequence of the word. The stress is on حركة الهاء. Even the incorrect performance, the stress does not change. What differentiates here between the two performances is al-mifsal. The straight performance, you feel that there is a transition between the words, that it is al-mifsal. Talking about the articulation and the differences between words can be found in the Professor Dr. Al-Deeb in the master's degree. This is under the title of النبر of the verbal group. We say ما لهذا and not ما لهذا. Also, فما with a preposition لام with هؤلاء. We say فما لهؤلاء and not فما لهؤلاء. Also, فما with a preposition لام with الذين. We say فما للذين and not فما للذين. A guideline to know the straight performance. Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب's father, rahimahullah, was a scholar of reading in Al-Azhar al-Sharif. His father, rahimahullah, was a scholar of the straight performance. While he was teaching him, he would tell him to say this and not this, without knowing the term of the stress and nabr. And there were no rules of the nabr, so he would guide him to come up with the word alone. He was instructing him to come up with a single word. We pronounce the word singly. Then we find ourselves most of the time coming up with the word straight. The defect comes when the word comes in the context, when we link the words together. Let's take some examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. عَيْنًا. We say the stress is on حركة العين. Then we join it with the following word. We pronounce the word alone in case of cessation. The consonant takes a حركة if it has any حركة. We pronounce it with a tanween. We connect it with what follows if it has a sukoon. Will this rule solve all the performances for us? No, but more often than it will be correct. This concludes this course. وَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدُ. الحمد لله بنعمته تتم الصالحات. Praise is to Allah, by whose grace good deeds are completed at the end of our blessed cycle of النبر and straightness of Quranic performance. أسأل الله أن ينفعنا بما علمتنا ويعلمنا ما ينفعنا وأن يزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. Allah benefits us by that which you have taught us, and teach us that which will benefit us, and increase us in knowledge. Praise is to Allah in all situations, and I seek refuge with Allah from the torment of the fire. وأن يكون هذا العلم حجة لنا لا حجة علينا, and that the science be an argument for us, but not an argument against us. I would like to give a word of thanks and appreciation to our virtuous Sheikh, Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب. He gave me this great opportunity to be a part of this great work translating and giving lectures in English. I enjoyed every minute of it. It has been such an amazing experience. I ask Allah Almighty to spread this knowledge in all parts of the world. جزاكم الله خير الجزاء شيخنا الفاضل Professor Dr. وليد مقبل الديب. حفظه الله. This is the end of this course. I hope you have enjoyed and benefited from this course. Thank you for your kind attendance and participation. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.